Okay, everybody, welcome back to Policy and Properties. I am Josh Wilton. It is Wednesday night. It is 7:30. It's time to talk local real estate policy. It is time to talk local real estate, local town policy, I should say, that affects the value of real estate, or theoretically could affect the value of real estate. Tonight's topic is rather new to Princeton. Princeton, New Jersey just passed not an outright ban, but a more or less ban on the Airbnb business that was happening in town. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it down. And at the end of the broadcast, and please feel free, by the way, to put any questions in the chat you would like. We'll answer them as we go. But at the end of the broadcast, as always, what I will do is I will give an opinion whether this policy affects your home price or will affect your home price in Princeton, West Windsor, or whatever town we're talking about that night. So again, this is Josh Wilton, Policy and Properties. We will get to it. So this is a pretty big deal. There was a decent number of Airbnb operators in Princeton. Full disclosure, I run a property management company called Princeton Property Management Services. We do manage Airbnbs for people. Met with a landlord last week. He's still considering making one of his rentals that he quite can't rent long-term, an Airbnb, for the next few years. So we're going to just break this down, what this means. So in January, Princeton, right, the council, pretty much banned the Airbnb business in Princeton. The net effect of the law is that you have to be a homeowner on the go forward to rent your property. You can't do it as a business. You can't live in West Windsor and have a home in Princeton or an apartment in Princeton and rent it. We're going to get into the rules. So again, short-term rentals are a big deal. I'm sure pretty much anybody listening to this broadcast has stayed in one in some part of the world, but they've also become very volatile in the world that we live in, where we're experiencing housing shortages all over the world, not just New Jersey, all over the world. So, when you think about it, short-term rentals aren't about weekend tourists. They do affect a lot of different things, and neighborhood character. I mean, there's cities in the world where there's fewer residents than there's ever been because of the proliferation of Airbnbs. So it has literally changed the face of cities around the world. Princeton really wasn't that big of a deal. It was about 100 units, 100 homes, or 100 total doors, as we say, that were operating. And we're going to go through the new law, how it affects your property. So what happened? So Princeton just passed a full short-term rental ordinance, and it's the first time that they have a dedicated Airbnb short-term rental framework. They didn't really have one before December, January, and it's not a complete ban, but it's a very structured system of change, meaning you have to be an owner-operator. You can't be a non-Princeton resident. It has to be your primary residence. That's number one. And you're going to have to prove it. Number two, it's a 3-year phase out, which is smart, because if Princeton said in January, in February, Airbnb operators are cut off and you have to rent those units or sell those units, because that'd be your only choice, it would have flooded the rental market. It could have theoretically flooded the resale market, and your home prices would have dropped, which I don't think anybody wants. The other pillar of the short-term rental law is that there's going to be permits, inspections, and taxes. So Princeton, as a municipality, is going to be, and fines, by the way, I should mention, is going to be much more involved in the Airbnb business than they've ever been. They're going to treat the Airbnb owner operators like hotels, right? And there's rules for hotels. So what counts as a short-term rental? Any rental under 30 days. That's number one. It applies to Airbnb, VRBO, Furnish Finder, direct bookings, any short-term rental under 30 days. And keep in mind, Princeton has a really big short-term rental market because of the university. People coming in, people coming out, professors, work. It's a huge corporate environment. People like to be in town. So there is a very robust Airbnb platform that's happening here. And I say Airbnb, short-term rental platform. So who can now host under the new rules? Owners who live in the unit full-time. So you have to live on the property full-time, right? Or a long-term tenant that rents the property can lease it with the consent of the owner. So those are the two people that can rent it. Who can host by mid-2028 or early 2028 Investors who do not live on site. So if you're an investor, you own an Airbnb, you don't live there, you're not going to be able to do a short-term rental under 30 days anymore. Multi-property portfolio hosts, right? People own multi-property properties, and hotel-style cluster houses, which we didn't really have that in Princeton. So the 3-year countdown. So starting in January, existing Airbnb operators have 3 years to convert their unit, non-owner occupied. You can put it on for long-term rental. You can sell it. That's kind of it, right? The phase-out window, right? The existing non-owner short-term rental people, they must have been, if you want to put an Airbnb on now, you must have been active in the Airbnb business in the last 180 days, right? So you're going to have to prove it. You have to apply for a permit from the town, right? And you can operate for the next 36 months. So what does this do? The concept is that, and I thought there was some definite histrionics listening to the town council meeting. It was sort of like make Princeton great again, sort of like mood, like we have to save Princeton. There wasn't that many of them. And 99% of the neighbors didn't even know there was an Airbnb in their neighborhood. Somebody actually testified that was against Airbnbs, didn't even know one was in her own neighborhood. So, and Mayor Frieda said, we've had ambulance calls for Airbnbs. There's ambulance calls for every residence at some point in Princeton, right? So there's a little bit of histrionics going on with that, whatever, that's politics. So the concept is that the town decided they want to reclaim housing for long-term occupants or owner occupants, right? So, government intervention on housing, it is what it is. So, is that fair? Should people have been grandfathered in? Because there are people that had pretty significant investments in Princeton as Airbnb operators. So here's the other thing too. Every Airbnb operator for the next 36 months is going to need a permit, right? And they're going to have an inspection. So when you advertise, if you're an Airbnb operator and you advertise on any digital platform, you're going to have your permit number on the digital platform. And if you don't, you're subject to a fine. And the fines are significant. I'll get to that in a minute, right? You have to have documentation for your application, proof of primary residence, floor plan, parking info, $500,000 liability insurance, no open building permits, right? So, you put a new roof on your building and, you haven't closed a permit, you can't have an Airbnb. No delinquent taxes or delinquent municipal charges. Suppose that's fair. The town inspector is going to come out and look for smoke detectors, safe egress. You got to be able to get in and out of the place, hallways, stairs, exits, heat, no mold, obviously, no leaks, safe electric, up-to-date electric, no creative bedrooms and basements without egress. So, a lot of people put bedrooms in their basements, but there's only one set of steps in and out of the basement. That's not a bedroom. That's a really big closet. A bedroom in a basement, you have to have an other door. You have to have 2 ways out of the basement, through the house, the main steps, out of a dugout window or a door that walks to the outside of the house. So you need 2 points of ingress, egress for a basement bedroom. So if you have that and you don't have the 2 points of ingress, egress, you are not renting that space on as an Airbnb. So here's where it gets interesting. The town, and this is right off the municipal website, can fine you $1,250 a day. Each day is a new set of fines, right? They can put you in prison for non-compliance. It's in the ordinance. It's right on the website. So they are not playing around with this. And because it's a digital platform, if you're an operator and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to post it, I'm not going to get a permit, I'm pretty sure they're going to fine you, right? I'm pretty sure they're going to fine you. And here's where it gets interesting. Now you're an Airbnb host for the next 36 months in Princeton, New Jersey. There's very specific operating rules for hosts, right? You have to maintain a guest log for 2 years. So if somebody comes in and leaves, you have to have a record of them coming in. You have to have on call 24 hours, 7 days a week, including holidays. Somebody that's going to be able to respond to a complaint in less than 2 hours. So if you're an Airbnb operator and you live in California, right, and you don't have a service and one of your guests calls, you're going to get a $1,250 fine. You have to have somebody on call for your unit 24/7. Now, I will give a shout out to Princeton Property Management Services. We do offer that service. So if you're an Airbnb operator listening to this and you need help, we can actually help you for the next 36 months. You have to post a placard outside with the occupancy limit, the parking rules, the trash and recycling rules, and emergency contact info. It's pretty incredible. Like the town, it's pretty well thought out. Agree with it or not, I think they did their homework on it. You have to comply with noise, parking, and zoning rules, meaning, if it's a 3-bedroom house, you can't have 14 people sleeping in it, right? I think it's 2 people per bedroom is the rule, right? And you cannot post exterior Airbnb signage. They sort of want it to blend in, right? They don't want like mini lodging businesses. So let's just see. Any questions so far in the chat? Nothing so far. So I'm crushing the Airbnb explanation of Princeton, and you're all standing by with bated breath as to my opinion what this is going to do to the real estate market in Princeton. Because the concept, again, I'm telling you, if you listen to town council meetings when this was going on, it was really like, we need to save, like Leighton Newland, we need to save Princeton. Save it from what? People coming in to work at the university during the week and going home on the weekend? It was a little hysterical. All right. So let's talk new tax implications. Okay. Princeton, right, is going to add a 3% local occupancy tax. So hotels get taxed. Airbnb operators are going to get taxed. And this is in addition to the New Jersey sales tax and the New Jersey occupancy fee, which has already been in place. The municipality estimates for the next 3 years $70,000 to $200,000 in additional income per year. So is this a tax gambit, or are they looking to phase it out? A little bit of both. They only want owner-operators running Airbnbs, so it's got to be your main residence. So one year for reunion weekend, we left and we rented our house for a pretty ridiculous amount of money to grads coming back. We could still do that, right? But if it's not your residence and you just bought it as an investment property and it's vacant, you can't just throw it up on Airbnb without applying for the permit, getting the insurance, having the placard. So it's going to change a lot of people who, I hate to say this, fed off the university traffic, and not in a bad way. People coming in want a place to stay. They don't want to stay in a hotel. They want to stay in an Airbnb. We've all done it. So it's going to change that platform. So the concept is that because of the university, I think the town realized they're not going to stop it, but if they can't stop it, they want to tax it, right? So what does this mean? Like, let's talk about the housing arguments of short-term rentals. So the people that supported the ban, right, said short-term rentals remove units from long-term housing stock. And that is true. But in Princeton, it wasn't that many. I think it was in the vicinity of 100 to 140 units, total doors, were being used as an Airbnb, right? The argument is that because of that removal, those 140 doors, it pushes up rental prices. Rental prices in Princeton, I know they're not like low, but you have the Avalon, you have the Alice, you have the other Avalon, you have the other Avalon, you have the Seminary project coming. Princeton is not at a shortage of rental prices. And I can tell you definitively the 140 doors that were being used as short-term rentals did not jack up rental prices in Princeton. It just wasn't enough of them. Disrupt neighborhoods. I don't know. I don't know of anybody who was bothered by an Airbnb. I know where some of the Airbnbs are in town. We managed some. We've never had the police called, but maybe people have. So again, I think that was a little political histrionics. It replaces neighbors with tourists, which is fair, but there is the concept of private property, right? So if you own a house, do you get to use it as a vehicle, as a tax shelter, as an equity gain? It creates party and parking issues. Again, I hadn't heard about any, but the whole "Make Princeton Great Again" thing was a little disconcerting, and it turned homes into hotel rooms. Well, yeah, that's what an Airbnb is. It gave people the opportunity to earn money on their houses. It's not like Princeton's going out of the way to lower taxes, right? So people want to make money on their homes. Princeton's made that a little bit more difficult. We'll see. The critics argued it's government overreach, right? The flat out government overreach, that it's going to hurt small entrepreneurs. It's going to hurt the comers and goers in and out of Princeton, meaning there are a lot of people that come in and out of this town on a weekly basis to work and live that are affiliated with the university for jobs, for BMS, for Nova. Like, there's a lot of corporate and academic people in and out of this town on a weekly basis. And because we were in that space, I can tell you it's a lot. It's going to hurt them, right? I guess it's good for the Graduate Hotel. I guess it's good for the Nassau Inn. Is it bad for tourism? Yeah, I think, I'd say yes. I think there's a viability to having an Airbnb platform in any given town. It's not good when it displaces all of the residents, like in Venice. But yeah, it's not, you should have some balance to it. It definitely does reduce income opportunities for people who own property in Princeton. And it's got uneven enforcement compared to other towns. So what are other towns doing? Full or near bans. Hamilton and Montgomery pretty much have like fully banned it. I remember in Montgomery, like there was an article where I think it was some young people rented this massive house and were just renting it every weekend as a party house on a cul-de-sac, and it was like driving the neighbors crazy. I don't want to misspeak here, but like, and Montgomery's like pulled the plug on it pretty quickly after that. Pennington, it's allowed with pretty tight rules. Hopewell, it's allowed with permits and occupancy caps. Lawrenceville, West Windsor, a little bit gray area. I don't want to misspeak about it. Trenton, it's allowed, but with regulation and taxes. So Princeton's sort of in the middle of a ban and completely allowed unregulated. It's not a ban. It's a filtered system. You have to be a primary resident. It has to be your primary residence. You need permits. You need inspections. You're going to be taxed. You got to publicly notify. You have a service on call 24/7 with a max 2-hour response time, right? So, they've really Princeton has upped the game. And I think what it's going to do, the super professional operators in town are going to do really well for the next 30 months. The people that just did it as a hobby, that's a lot. Like, who the heck wants to be on call 24/7? So here's a question. What if you own both sides of a duplex, live in one side? Could you consistently rent out the vacant side indefinitely? It's a great question. So a duplex is a twin, right? You live in this side, you have a shared wall, and you own both residences. My assumption under the law is yes. I did ask a few people for this episode. Got a little bit of an ambiguous answer. And then there's the question of the Airbnb thing. So I have ADU. I have a house. I built an ADU in my yard, little mini house, and I wanted to rent it out for extra income. Do I still get to rent it out? It's the same property. So I assume if it's the same lot and block, to answer the question on the duplex, probably yes. You would be able to rent it out short term. It has to be the same lot and block, same address, right? So again, Princeton, is it allowed? Yes. Primary residence? Yes. Effective in 2028. You need permits, local tax of 3%, and a 3-year phase out. So the non-professional people are going to get clipped, I think, by this. In Pennington, is it allowed? Yes. Primary residence? Sort of. They want you to have that. Permits? Yes. Local tax? No. Hopewell Township, it's allowed? Yes. Primary residence? No. Permits? Yes. Local tax? No. So everybody locally has a version of this. Princeton, ironically, was a little bit late to the game, which is interesting considering the fact that I think there was a pretty robust platform for Airbnb guests and hosts in Princeton. So let's talk about the winners and the losers. And the ultimate question is, will this affect my property value? So the winners, I don't know. I don't really see any particular winners here. You will have some more long-term housing options. So if these investors keep them to become long-term landlords, you'll have some new rental assets coming to the market, which is always good. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't buy the fact that Airbnbs in Princeton made neighborhoods unstable. Nobody really heard that. The town's going to be a winner because they're going to make a little more money. Landlords, I guess, if you were in the Airbnb business, this is going to be tough. You're going to have to shift quick and be compliant, or it's a $1,250 a day fine. That's a big ticket item. So again, I think the people that are going to be losers are the people who are doing it. Maybe they lived here 6 months out of the year, and they were in Florida 6 months out of the year, and they rented it while they were here. I think for them, it's going to be hard. They're going to have to hire professional services. And again, I didn't do this to promote Princeton Property Management Services, but we do have that platform. So we can help you if you want to navigate this. We're actually, our service levels are crazy good on that. And yes, we're available 24/7. Just look at the bags under my eyes. And so will the supply of housing go up or down? It's going to go up. So the long-term rental market's going to go up. Maybe a few of the hosts will look at the equity gains they've gotten over the last, since COVID, right? 8 years, and put their houses on the market. It'll be good to be in the hotel business. So the Graduate's going to do well. The Nassau Inn, the Peacock, they're going to pick up the slack, I suppose. Or conversely, will the guests go to Pennington? Will they go to Montgomery and just skip Princeton if there's not enough availability? So here's the long-term question. Will this affect property values in Princeton? No, the property value in Princeton is not going up or down from a resale perspective because of this ordinance. It's not like all of a sudden we're going to have more houses for sale. I think these landlords are professionals. I think they'll probably hang on to them for a while. I think they'll probably rent them long term. And, as they phase out of that business, they may sell them. So I don't think there's going to be a flood of inventory. I don't think there's going to be a flood of change. But long term, hopefully we'll get some more rental options out of it, and we'll see what happens there. So again, long-term answer, no. The Airbnb change didn't do anything to, increase your property values in Princeton. It didn't do, much, except I think create a very probably good structure around the Airbnb business. So, that's that, and we'll see how it affects things long-term, and we'll see what these property owners do long-term. So that is it for tonight. This is Policy and Properties. I am Josh Wilton. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7:30. Thanks, everybody.